you can never allow your vehicle, i.e. real estate or buying a business or stocks or crypto, never allow your vehicle to be your identity. And I've never
Mm.
done that. I call them seminars, right? When they fail. I've built 30 businesses so far in my career, several worth tens of millions of dollars. 2 right now are. However, most were spectacular flaming seminars, okay? And because we
I
fail
love
our
that
way to
word. That's
success.
great.
Yeah.
Seminars. Learning,
Yeah,
basically. Yeah.
we fail our way to success, but the key is to not allow it to be your identity. If it's your identity, people kill themselves when they connect their business, their vehicle to their identity. That's the critical piece here. Allow it to be your vehicle. So I've had vehicles that have failed. It was a big vehicle that failed in 2008. But you know what? If it's not your identity, it's okay. That failed. You're not a failure.
Okay, welcome back to the Daily Mastermind. George Wright III, your host with your clarity, focus, and discipline when it comes to mindset, business, and lifestyle. And I'm here with Rod Khleif. I'm really excited to have you on the show today, Rod.
Thanks, brother. I had no idea how much you've accomplished on your background. It kind of blew me
My-
away, bud, because I'm an ex Tony Robbins guy, and I guess you've done all sorts of things in that
yeah.
environment. So I'm really impressed and excited to see if I can add some value.
Well, listen, I know you will because you've got a top podcast, and I'm going to give everybody an intro for you. But one of the reasons I want everybody to know I brought you on, this is super important because you're a great example of not only mindset, but success and business and wealth and all of the above. And you've helped hundreds of thousands of not just students, investors, but also with your charity. So, guys, if you don't know Rod, he rebuilt after losing $50 million in the 2008 financial crisis. And he went on to kind of take his mindset, frame it the next level, and become the founder of Lifetime Cashflow Academy. He's over 250,000 students, multifamily units, best-selling author, host of a podcast. He's got a foundation. Yeah, I'm just really excited about your overall background. So if you would do me a favor, Rod, give everybody, we don't need the whole backstory, but you had a massive event happen in your life. I mean, who can even relate with losing $50 million and coming back? So take us to that and help us understand the mindset that you had to overcome to get what you're doing now.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. Yeah, so I'll give you a little backstory. I'm a Dutch immigrant, okay? Think wooden shoes and windmills. Immigrated this country when I was 6 years old with my brother Albert, my mother's Vansha. And we ended up in Denver, Colorado, and we didn't have much. In fact, my mom babysat kids so we'd have enough money to eat. We shopped at an expired food store. Believe it or not, they had that back then. Drank powdered milk with our cereal in the morning because it was cheaper than real milk. And trust me, sounds better than it is. And I wore hand-me-down clothes from the Goodwill all the way through junior high school until when I was 14. I lied about my age, said I was 15 because you had to be 15 to work at Burger King. And I was tall, and luckily I was able to pull it off and flip burgers to be able to buy my own clothes. I'm sure you've got listeners that had it harder than I did. You've got entrepreneurs that listen to you, and we all bust our asses as entrepreneurs. But I knew I wanted more. And like I said, luckily my mom had an incredible work ethic. So with her babysitting money, she invested in the stock market successfully. She also invested in real estate. Well, her first real estate acquisition was a house right across the street from us. She bought for $30,000 when I was about 14. When I was 17, she told me she'd made $20,000 in her sleep. It gone up in value 20 grand. Now, keep in mind, this is when 20 grand was a lot of money. This is 1977.
Right.
Okay. And I'm like, what? You made 20 grand? You didn't do anything? Screw college. I'm getting into real estate. So I got into real estate. Well, my first year in real estate, I made about 8 grand. My second year, maybe 10 grand. But my third year, I made over $100,000, which back in 1980 was some pretty decent change. So what happened between year 2 and year 3 to cause me to 10x my income? Well, what happened was I met a guy that taught me about the importance of mindset and psychology, which I know you preach about and I talk about on my
Yes.
podcast ad nauseum, because it's 80 to 90% of your success in anything is your mindset and psychology. And so fast forward to today, I've owned over 2,000 houses that I've rented long-term. I've owned thousands of apartment units. I still own about 1,000. I'm buying senior housing. I'm closing on my 4 more tomorrow, literally tomorrow. There'll be
Wow.
8 that I'll have and 1 under contract. Very excited about that asset class as well. And, in 2006, my net worth went up $17 million while I slept.
Ooh.
And you might say, wow. And I said, wow. And I got a head so big, I could barely fit it through a freaking door. And
Right.
when that happened, God of the universe will give you a nice little smackdown. Well, that was 2008.
Reality check. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I lost 50 million in 2008. I call them seminars. Now, because it's only a failure if you don't get back up, you don't get the lesson. It was an expensive freaking seminar, don't get me wrong. But what I'm known for talking about is the success principles that I utilized to have 50 million views in the first place. And then maybe as important, maybe more important, what it took to recover from that. So happy to drill down on that a little bit if you like.
Yeah, you know what, Rod? What's interesting to me is I know you talk about it. You probably had so many people ask you this story because you've had thousands of podcasts and things like this. But and so sometimes it just rolls off your tongue. But I don't think people can really relate. Just take me back to what you must have been going through because your head was so huge. You had all this money, and that.
You mean the pain? You want to hear about the pain?
I mean, you were at a place that a lot of people were at that are at now.
It freaking sucked, George. Okay, and because I thought I was set for life, I really did, and because I had 800 houses, I had several apartment complexes, and by the way, I was only at a 30% loan to value. I only owed 30 cents on the dollar. I get hate all the time when I talk about this. Well, you were over leveraged. No, I was at a 30% loan to value. That's how bad it was.
Yeah.
The key here is, and there's so much opportunity right now, George, my God, to buy businesses. There's 10,000 people a day turning 65 that own businesses. To buy real estate, multifamily's in a meltdown right now. There's a lot of operators in trouble. I mean, you can buy deals for less than they cost to build. I'm buying the senior housing for less than cost to build. There's tons of apartment complexes out there being sold for less than they cost to build. But it's very easy to get sucked into the fear of where we are right now. And I completely
and you probably I was going to ask you because you had mindset all the way up until that big loss, and so that foundation probably helped you as well. But also, like you had to, what triggered you to get out of it?
Okay, so here's the thing that I want to tell people. That's why I went off on a sidetrack here. You can never allow your vehicle, i.e. real estate or buying a business or stocks or crypto, never allow your vehicle to be your identity. And I've never done that. I call them seminars, right, when they fail. I've built 30 businesses so far in my career, several worth tens of millions of dollars, 2 right now are. However, most were spectacular flaming seminars, okay? And because I
love that word. That's great, seminars. Yeah. Learning, basically, yeah.
We fail our way to success. But the key is to not allow it to be your identity. If it's your identity, people kill themselves when they connect their business, their vehicle to their identity. That's the critical piece here. Allow it to be your vehicle. So I've had vehicles that have failed. It was a big vehicle that failed in 2008. But you know what? If it's not your identity, it's okay. That failed. You're not a failure. That's the key. People kill themselves. Like I said, that crypto guy shot himself in the head in his Lambo about a year ago, and people jump off buildings. They did in 08. They did in the Great Depression because it's their identity. So I just want to flag that for the entrepreneurs that are listening. Never identify with the vehicle.
That's a huge lesson. And what do you do on a daily, or what do you do to make sure you do disconnect it? Because so many entrepreneurs are grinding and hustling so much that, that's all they do. So even if they're not conscious or not conscious of it, it is their identity.
It's a conscious decision to step back from it. Obviously, you work on the business instead of always in the business. And there's a lot of little things you do to disconnect.
Love it.
So that, again, there's no greater force in the human psyche than the need to remain consistent with how we identify ourselves. I've got I am statements on my wall here. I am success. I'm the best in the world at what I do. I'm a business genius. Because anything you put the words I am in front of is an identity statement. So in fact, in my virtual boot camps, I do an identity exercise. Everybody does their own identity, and because as you say it, so shall it be. So, what you aspire to be, you need to identify with. And so,
Rod, I got to just make a point there because, guys, if you're listening to this, what he just said to you is 2 things. Number one, he works as much on his identity as he does his business or his seminars he's going through, right? But also, at your level even, you've got I am statements written up. I mean, you would think by now you'd have enough validation internally, externally, but you still continue to do that. That's important, right?
Take it around you, right in front of me. I am happy now. I am powerful. I am courage. I am blessed. I'm determination. I'm grit.
Love it.
Again, those, and I tell you, Mike, I have these in my exercise room in one of my other buildings here at my compound. And my kids, they used to help me at my live events because I used to yell this stuff out running down the street. I am, and because it's an affirmation. It gets into your psyche when you yell it out loud repeatedly. And that was the question my kids got most often. Did he really do that shit? They're like, oh yeah, we had to hear it. Now I've got my own exercise room, so nobody has to suffer through it anymore. But
yeah. Did you? Well, so you get past this $50 million loss, but did you redefine the way you viewed wealth or what you were focused on?
Well,
did it shift how you were focused?
Yeah, I redefined my asset class, okay? Because I had 800 houses, the houses that pulled me down. It's the reason I doubled down on multifamily, because my multifamily would have survived if I hadn't cross-collateralized my apartment complexes with packages of houses. My multifamily pulled back about 11%. And that's why I started my podcast about 10 years ago. And I'm blessed to say it's now the largest real estate podcast really in the
Love it.
world for commercial real estate. But I used to tell people, for God's sakes, if you're going to buy and hold real estate, do multifamily, don't do single family. Ask me how I know. I say that a lot, by the way, at my boot camps, because
Yeah.
I'm like, don't do that. Ask me how I know. So now one of my students got me a shirt that says hashtag ask me how I know. And
Ask me
we
how I
give it
know.
away
That's
at
great.
events.
You know,
Yeah.
it still really is, though. Multifamily real estate is one of your main investment strategies of choice,
Oh,
correct?
sure. Oh,
Yeah.
sure. Oh, sure. As I was telling you before we started recording, I'm bragging now, and I was bragging before we started recording because I'm so proud of it. About 3 weeks ago, we discovered that we're counting how many units my students own. We're at 305,000. We know it's
Wow.
probably closer to 350,000, but we have verified 305,000 units, which is more than everybody else that teaches this combined by a lot. Very proud of that. It's my
Yeah,
students'
well, it's
success.
it's a testament to people actually applying it too. Because I think one of the toughest things for real estate investors, and I wanted to ask you this because you always talk about psychology is more important than strategy, and I've heard you say that a lot.
Absolutely.
So, or your technique, but
Right.
but what separates the successful from the unsuccessful real estate investor? Being that you have so many successful real estate investors you've worked with.
Well, it's the education, candidly. I mean, it's applying the education. Out of those units that we have, we've only lost one deal that I know of, which is really amazing in this economy because a lot of deals are in trouble because they got adjustable rate debt. The rate's gone up. Inflation has caused expense ratios to go through the roof. I used to pay my maintenance supervisors $28 an hour. Now they're 40. So there's a lot of deals that are in trouble. My SEC attorney that does our syndications when we buy a property said he got six apartment complex foreclosures in one day. Okay, that's
Mm.
what's happening out there right now. So there's incredible opportunity. I
Yeah,
mean,
so you just said it.
incredible
A
opportunity.
lot of that's
Like,
happening, but it is opportunity.
oh my God, with crisis comes opportunity. Warren Buffett's famous quote, be fearful when others are greedy. A lot of greed these last few years. But the flip side of that is be greedy when others are fearful. The fear is now. Now is the time to buy because the fear is there. And, so many people that listen know they need more out of life. They're not able to spend time with their kids. They're not able to have that freedom that they want and deserve, or they're not leaving a legacy for their kids. And if that's you, for God's sakes, pick a vehicle. If it's real estate, get your ass to my next boot camp. It's a whopping $17 and I don't sell anything there. So, so do that or figure out what your vehicle is going to be and learn it right now. Like I said, buying businesses. I wish there was two of me. One would be buying businesses. 10,000 people a day are turning 65 for the next 20 years. A lot of them own businesses. They need to
Yeah.
sell, right?
Yeah.
Incredible opportunities right now. People that haven't implemented AI, haven't implemented social media. It's an incredible opportunity right now.
Yeah, I'm curious why you name. So you've got Lifetime Cashflow Academy, and I'm curious why it's not Lifetime Real Estate Academy or something like that. Tell
Well,
me a little bit
you
about
know,
what that means.
Well, basically, I teach people how to buy commercial real estate. But honestly, on my podcast, I've been having people that buy businesses on there, people that do franchising on there, because there's so many vehicles you can use, and you should figure out what juices you, what you would enjoy, doing. Because life's about being happy. And if you love what you do, work is play. Can you tell I love what I do? I mean,
Yeah.
I freaking love it
Yeah.
because when you love what you do, you're passionate about it, and passion's required to influence people, right? And
Yeah.
and you're more creative and you're more innovative. So, I tell people if you're going to get into this business, play to your strengths. Don't worry about your weaknesses. You hire, align, or partner for your weaknesses. Success is inevitable when you do that. And so, that's some of the keys. And again, the reason my students are so freaking successful is I spend so much time on mindset. You come listen to my podcast. I do a clip every day. I'm sorry, every week rather. I'm sorry, I just did one today, so I was thinking day. I do one every week on mindset. It's a 5-minute clip. You give me 5 minutes a week, I will juice you. I promise. Of course, we have the real estate pieces too, and then some. And now we're talking about other asset classes. I did just multifamily forever. Now I do senior housing, of course, because I teach it. I do student housing. I do self-storage. I do industrial flex space, mobile home parks, all the different asset classes.
Interesting. Do you do residential assisted living, stuff like that?
Oh yeah. No,
Yeah.
not houses. No,
Okay.
I'm very familiar with it. Gene Garino, who teaches that, died and was a good friend.
Yeah,
Sadly. His
same.
daughter's doing it now. Yeah.
So I'm
But
curious because probably one of the common messages you have, and what's interesting is we'll get to the finance as well, but mindset is such a key piece. What are you saying to your investors right now when there's so much economic uncertainty? What are just give me some specific things you kind of tell them
just
other
be
than just pumping
careful.
them up,
Yeah, just be careful. If you want to invest passively, on my link tree at rodslinks.com is a book about the questions you should ask before you invest with a general partner in a syndication or a joint venture. You know, and they're important questions. So again, that's Rod's links, or if you're driving, text links to 72345.
I'll
And
throw that in the
and
show notes, guys,
yeah,
if you're
and
listening.
there's some great resources there too. Besides the books, I've got a book section that, I mean, these books are best in class books and they're free. Okay, so
Hmm.
the price
Hmm.
is right. And my goal setting workshop is there. You know, that's the first thing I did when I lost everything, was reassociate with my goals. And if you haven't done your goals recently and you're listening, get over there and do it. To spend an hour with me, have your spouse do it, have your kids, if they're over 10 years old, do it. You know, people spend more time planning a freaking birthday party than they do designing their lives. Doing your goals is designing your life, and it's free. I'm not going to try to sell you anything. It's there at Rod's links too. But
Rod,
anyway,
I love goal setting. In fact,
yeah.
when I'm hosting the Franklin Planner podcast, they've got about 300,000 buyers every year. It's such a big thing, because if you want to create a life, you got to create a life. Can you give me some golden nuggets on goal
Dude,
setting,
dude,
brother?
there's
We got
my
to have you
Franklin
over
Planner,
there.
brother. Right there, man. I'm a
It's
dinosaur. Now, in the
intentional.
back of this thing, by the way, I'll show you something. In the back of this thing, I've got some of my goals. Now, the first pictures are pictures of my kids,
Oh,
because
I
it
love
starts
it.
with gratitude, right? Everything starts with gratitude. Then I've got pictures of the things that I wanted. This picture looks just like the house I built on the beach, which is hilarious because I lost it in a divorce and it's right across the bay from where I live now. God's got a sense of humor. I get to look at it every day. This
That'll
bottom
motivate you.
picture looks like just where I live now. You know,
You got dream
watches.
building,
I've got a
goal
watch
setting.
collection that'll blow your mind. You know, the
Brother, you're just like
Lamborghini,
me.
the Rolls Royce, the Bentley, all this stupid shit that I thought was important that I bought at one time. But it's because I have pictures of my goals around me, right?
Well, it's
Anyway,
also the things you ended up with because you were associating that and manifesting
well,
it in
that's
your
it.
life. So it's so
That's how it
great.
works.
I
Yeah, that's
love
how it
that.
works.
That's so funny. We're so calm because
Yeah.
I call it my book of power, because at the end of the day,
Hmm.
sometimes I just need to suck my mind into something that just pushes me
Right.
forward. So, yeah. So let me just ask you this: if somebody, look, everybody's heard about goal setting. If somebody needs to just like take some action, where do they start when it comes to goal setting? Other than like, this is what I want when I want it. How do I like? Give me some
Well,
nuggets that you would tell your students
sure,
when you're doing goal
sure. Well,
setting.
of course, do the goals first. You know, like Napoleon Hill talks about in his book, Think and Grow Rich. By the way, I've given away over 10,000 physical copies of that book, the book
Mm,
itself. But and it's a book you should read 2 or 3 times a year, as you well know, George.
yes.
But anyway, you know, starts with that, because you got to create that burning desire, that hunger to push through fear, to push through limiting beliefs you may have, maybe to get uncomfortable. You know, that comfort zone's a nice warm place, and we all know nothing freaking grows there, right? So,
Right.
but the goals are the start. Then you have to make a decision. And I don't mean dip your toe in the water. I don't mean 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I mean, it is done. You make a decision. And like a great analogy for a good decision is you attack the island, you burn your ships because you're taking their damn ships home, right? That's a
Yeah.
decision. Then you got to take that first step. And that's the scariest part, you know, especially people that are analytical. And I know who you are and I love you. And you also know how you have to check off every single box before you make a move. You can't do that. You're not going to see the whole path. Like Dr. Martin Luther King says, you take that first step in faith, the next step will be revealed. And, you know, Lao Tzu, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, but you got to take that step. So that's the next piece, okay? Then you need to make sure you're playing to your strengths, like we talked about earlier, because there's lots of different hats you can wear in my business, different pieces that you can do.
Yes.
My business is a team sport. You're not going to buy apartment complexes by yourself. So you play to your strengths. Get around the right people. You know, your peer group is critical. You know, I was in Tony Robbins' Platinum Partnership when I lost everything. I was around people that were killing it in that crash. They were thriving. And they're like, get up, you puss, 50 million schmillion, go make something happen. That's who you want to be around
Yeah.
when the shit hits
There's
the
that
fan, or
belief
when you need more.
transference, right? You get that
That's it.
belief transference from other people around you.
That's it. Get in the room where people think what you think is hard is easy. Okay, that's the room you want to be in, and that's the peer group you want to be in. Which is why my Warrior Coaching program is so freaking successful, because there's just dozens and dozens of successful teams in there. And you know, I wish I could take credit for it, but no, it's kind of got a life of its own. It's building because a rising tide lifts all ships. So peer group is the next thing. The next thing is focus. Focus is so freaking important. I get people that call me and say, how do I get out of student loan debt? I'm like, wrong question. How do you make so much money the debt's irrelevant is what you should be asking. You know, they asked Mother Teresa if she was anti-war. She said, no, I'm pro-peace. I mean, you know, you see what I'm saying? You know,
Yeah.
focus is critical. Whatever you focus on gets larger, both positive or negative. I listen to 2 podcasts. My podcast is about 30 million downloads right now, which doesn't sound like a lot, but in the podcast world, it's not bad.
It
And in
is
my
really
little
good.
niche. Thank you. And I listen to two podcasts, Joe Rogan and Tim Ferriss. I try to stay on both. I try to
Love
listen
it.
to both sides of the aisle. I'm definitely on the Joe Rogan side, but on the Tim Ferriss side, he interviews the best of the best in the world. Athletes like Michael Phelps, the swimmer, NFL, NBA players, actors like Hugh Jackman, Arnold, people like that, billionaires like Ray Dalio, the heads of the biggest companies in the world like Zuckerberg, and he deconstructs their success. It's fascinating conversation to hear how they became successful. And I heard a pattern, George. In fact, we evaluated it. 95% of them meditate. What does meditation enhance? Focus, right? So focus is huge as well. What am I missing
You know,
here?
it's interesting. I was reading some Neville Goddard stuff just recently,
Oh, he's great.
and it came back up, attention. So I always think of focus, but attention is just another way of thinking about it. And I like what you said also, by the way. I wanted to double down. If you guys didn't catch this, because he said a lot of things really quick, I'm going to deconstruct later in our show notes, is he said, get in a room where what you think is hard, they think is easy.
Yeah.
I really loved that one, man. I just wanted to
started
mention
my
it
own
again.
mastermind. I started my own mastermind here at my house. I've got a compound here on the water in Sarasota, and I had 16 people come. It's about 3 billion in assets. I built it to 40 to 50 billion in assets, but it was like freaking herding cats, and so I gave it up a few years ago. But it was for me to be in the room where what I thought was hard was easy, and so that's why I did it. And
that's been my MO. That's why I always wanted to do events around the world with people that I couldn't even normally get in the room with, because you do an event, they're going to get in the room, and all of a sudden you got Trump in a limo coming up with his people, or you got Tony Robbins on his rebounder in the back or whatever, and you're like, man, how am I even getting here? So that's how you learn, right? And it's how you push yourself as well.
There behind the recliner. That's
get yourself some energy going.
Yeah, always, man. I got 4 of them around here.
Well, listen, Rod, I wish we had more time. We're going to have to, one thing I'd love to do is get you back over onto our Franklin Planner podcast. But I would like to just ask you one last question. You are pretty passionate about educating the next generation, and it's a pretty big mission for you.
Cards on the wall behind me, man. These are students. You can't even see them all. I literally have hundreds of them. You can't. Yeah.
Wow.
And because when you love what you do, work is play, and I'm passionate about education. Yeah.
You've got a foundation as well, right?
Oh, let me talk about.
Tell me about that real quick.
So I told you about that house I built on the beach across the bay here that my ex-wife got. Well, this place was magnificent. I own the beach on one side, boats on the back side. It was called a Gulf to Bay. It was a slice through an island, big waterfall, second floor balcony into the pool. You had to walk through the waterfall to get the pool. It was in magazines, big spiral staircase up to the middle. I'll land the plane with this. On the second floor, I had aquariums built around the staircase. Cost me almost 200 grand. So this gives you an idea of the house. It's worth about 12 million now. Well, I worked for that thing for 20 years, okay? 2 months after I moved in, I'm floating in the pool at night, and I'm looking up at this testament to my ego, which is really what it was, because I got picked on in school, and I had this thing where I didn't feel like I was good enough, and it was to prove the freaking world I was good enough. I mean, if that didn't do it, forget it.
Right.
And so I'm looking up at this testament to my ego, and I got depressed. And this was only 2 months after I bought it, okay? And so there were 3 messages in that. One was, you should never achieve a big goal without having other goals lined up behind it. So keep that in mind. That was one piece. Second piece is, it's never about the goals. You need them to create that hunger and that burning desire. But happiness comes from progress and growth. And I didn't know what I was going to do next. So that was the second piece. But the third big one was, I'd been totally focused on me. Rod, show the world I mattered. Ugh, blah, blah, blah. Well, that's the year I met Tony Robbins. And Tony feeds families. Well, I'm like, what a concept. Do something for someone else. I'm embarrassed to say I had to be 40 to get that memo. I called my brother in Denver, and I was going to go visit him for Thanksgiving. I'm like, bro, let's feed 5 families. So we bought food and toys for their kids if we knew that. He called his church to find out who needed help. Third family changed my life, George. We go up to this house. It's a single Hispanic woman with 5 kids. Her husband had left her. She comes out, she sees all the food and the toys. She starts crying. Her kids come out. 2 of the older ones start crying. I start crying, and I'm hooked. And please know there's no ego in this. There's a real message in this, so don't tune out. In the last 26 years, I've fed over 160,000 children in my area here for the holidays. For at-risk kids that wouldn't have a holiday meal, done holiday meals. I've done tens of thousands of backpacks filled with school supplies to local kids that don't have the basic supplies for school. Don't get me started on that. I've done thousands and thousands of teddy bears to local police departments for their officers to keep in their vehicles if they encounter a child that's been in a traumatic situation. The reason I bring this up is Tony Robbins calls it the science of achievement versus the art of fulfillment. Achievement's a science. You want to learn real estate? Get your ass to my boot camp, okay? Go to Rod's links. I promise you'll be glad you did. But fulfillment's an art. You got to figure out what juices you. For me, it's kids and the elderly. But for originally it was kids, and so figure out what it is. Give back right now. Don't say, oh well, you had money, that's why you gave back. You want the money, give back. That's how God works. Okay. So I just want to leave you with that message.
I love that message. I love it. And I think it's one of those things that you find out in your life at one point or another that, money isn't the success, isn't the fulfillment. In fact, I love that Jim Rohn quote, success is not to be pursued, it's attracted by the person you become. And to become your best version of yourself and create your best life, you've got to have something outside you. And it's really something that you've got to incorporate into what you're doing. And the irony is it just fuels even more the success you're going to have, because that fuel and that desire is what creates more success.
Even if you don't believe in God, that's just the way the universe works. I'm just telling you. And
really is. Yeah. Well, listen, Rod, I really appreciate you being with me today.
Likewise,
what's the easiest
brother,
place for people to connect with you?
Rod's links. Everything
links.
is there. My boot camp site is there. If you want to attend my boot camp, it's virtual. You can do it at home in your underwear. My podcast link is there. I know you'll appreciate that. Free book section. The goal setting workshop is there with the guides you can download. Yeah, so everything's at Rod's links, or if you're driving, text links to 72345.
Yeah, and what I'll do is I'll put this stuff in the show notes, guys. So if you're listening to this, do me a favor, share the show. I hope that you've not only been inspired and motivated, but maybe you've learned a few things. You've gotten your focus and a little bit of your attention into the right area. But like always, I've told you, listen, it's never too late to start living the life that you were meant to live. You've got to create it, though. You've got to take your time and you've got to make it happen. So I appreciate you being with us here today. Once again, this is the Daily Mastermind. Look forward to talking with you guys more tomorrow. Have a great day.